This play, is it coming to Bombay also?
They will do it in Bombay. Very good. They're doing it already in Ahmedabad, then in Agra, then in Simla.
I'll catch a show.
Yeah, I think they're bringing it to Calcutta to Bidla.
Oh.
Hmm.
I mean, most of my time is now here.
Yes.
But whenever I go home, I go.
Yes.
You've done Patal Ghar.
I've done Patal Ghar. Before that, years ago, when Anup Singh and I were married, I produced his film as Ek Theory Naam. So I was there a lot. Recky's production.
You were the EP for Ek Theory.
Yeah.
That is also.
That's when I met all the great actresses.
Rosie.
And they kept. Rosie was Bangladesh. Rosie and the other lady, I'm forgetting the names.
Priya Devi was from.
Supriya Devi, Madhvi Mukherjee.
Oh yes,
She's in the film
also there.
Then the other lady who plays the mother in those films.
Geeta.
Geeta, something else.
Ghatak only, no?
Bhatak?
No. Geeta. Hey, Geeta, what is
Ghatak, na? She's also Ghatak, right?
Yeah.
So all of them I met and I walked into the room and I was only 33 or 4 at that time, no? So I walked into the room because I was like so excited about seeing all of them.
Yes.
And then the old women, some of them toothless, some of them. So it took me a second to realize that this is Madhuri, the day after like seeing her in those other films and Ghatak's films and Ray films, Charu Lata and all of that. So I spent the day with them and then I think, what are you doing here, Meeta? So I said, so you exactly, yes, but what are you doing? Why are you here? I said, they kept asking me why. And then I realized what the why was, that you are Meeta Vasish. So why are you executive producer of this film for a first time director? Whom we've only just got to know.
His first here.
Yeah, his first feature. I'd been producing stuff for TV before that I was writing and scripting. Then I understood. I said, no, your director is my husband. Oh, no, that is why.
We must say the connection.
Why is she here? What is she doing here?
Well, it's one of my favorite films.
Yeah. So that was a film that we worked a lot on. So all those years I actually been in Calcutta. I had traveled because even before the shoot would finish in one place, I would be traveling to the next one to set up, make the deals, all that.
So that is there in Calcutta, and then you did Patal
Ghar. And then there was another film called On the Train.
Yeah.
And then I like Calcutta anyway. It's one of my favorite cities.
Yeah. On the Train also, I watched it so many times.
Yeah.
Just
so that's also there, yes.
But Patal Ghar is like a different.
Yeah. It's another level.
It's a great thing. As a kid, I used to watch it a lot.
Yeah.
I used to have fun. But now I just look at it and I'm like, wow, that's a great film to make at that time.
Now, when there's an actress, it was because of Orgyo Kamal Mitra.
Orgo Kamal Mitra.
Yeah, Orgo. I call him Orgo. He's Orgo. He had worked on the Ghatak film and that's how I got to know him. He'd done the editing finally. And he had been so kind and so generous because that film had driven me bankrupt in every way. And when he came, he was so kind that he didn't even take the airfare and actually went to the room and wept. When he said, no, but I'm coming here for the reason you don't have to. And I was like, the first time someone has been friendly towards this whole endeavor.
Before everything else, tell me about your film, Marie Call, and that thing called The Actor. I've been so excited ever since I got to know about it.
So where do I start? Because I actually started writing the script in 2013. And then I shot the first schedule in 2015.
Okay.
It got approved by the films division that time. So the money was of course very less because they don't give a great budget. And they only give you 50% of it after you give them a guarantee.
Okay.
So by the time I finished writing the film and I knew that this is not going to be enough, but for me it was important to get a validation of sorts from films division because they would have about 2,000 projects presented to them, for approval. And out of those 2,000, maybe they would pick, 50 or 70. And to get your film slated there was for me important. So I remember my father telling me, that's all you're getting, as a budget. I could give you that. I said, yeah, but I've got picked out. The project was chosen out of so many submissions. So that means something. And I think money made the maximum number of films for films division.
Yeah.
You know, even Siddheshwari was a film for films division.
Yeah.
So I said, there is something about it that I want to honor there, you know, and I feel like it's a home space and the first thing has to come from there. Having said that, I realized that the script that I'm writing already, even which I'd written as a synopsis, was actually very ambitious. It was going to be shot in 4 different parts of the country or cities. So Mumbai, Delhi, Banaras and Rajasthan.
So all the places he shot it.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
So by the end of it, to cut the story, so that's where it started from. Then it got stuck a little bit in between because there was no budget after that first thing. And I also feel there's almost something like for filmmaking, and I had experienced that even during the shoot of executive producer of Ekti Nodi Naam, the Ghatak film years ago,
Yeah.
that the permission has to come from somewhere else. Only then the film gets made, you know? And that is, so I totally believe in us, and almost like a divine permission that the universe gives you when everything is in place. So in the first schedule of, that happened during the Ghatak film also, it took me about 8 years to make that film. There were schedules when the film was just for 5 years, going nowhere. So even for Money Call and that thing called The Actor, my first schedule was a 2.5-day schedule in Rajasthan. And this is after, in 2015, and this is after 1 whole year of recce all over, you know. So my entire shooting days on the film are actually just 12.5 days for a 96-minute film.
Okay.
My shot ratio was like 1:2. Yeah. And I kind of had in mind already exactly what I want to take from where to where. And that is something that I learned as an actress watching Money Call at work. Because I've done 2 projects for him, Siddheshwari and The Idiot, and also Kumar Shani, whom I did 3 projects for. 3 films for. I won't call them projects. That's a terrible word to use in the context of these 2 directors particularly. It's not a project, it's cinema. Yeah. So doing the cinema for them, that's the one thing that I learned, that that there's an idea of making an image. That image has to be layered, it has to resonate. And when you're done with, when you've taken that, there's no need to constantly try and cut into it. You know, things like close-ups and over the shoulder and 2 shot and long shot, and then the poor editor is going mad with 300 takes for every scene. So I learned this whole economy of creating something because I used to watch them as an actress. And I was also told 1 take, okay, Meeta, because those days were the days of 35mm film, and the raw stock was very precious, and these films are made on really very small budgets, you know. So that had already, and I was just fresh out of drama school with all the training background. So that had already, working in the acting in their films had already prepared me for the idea that there is something known as knowing what you really want, going for it and not wasting time, yours or the actors or the producer's time, to experiment right there. So while their cinema looks like it's very different, it's very avant-garde, they were not sitting and fumbling on sets. Should we do it like that? Should we do it like that? Nothing.
Yeah.
They just knew it, you know?
Yeah.
And that was important for me. So that's how I did the first schedule in 2015. And then the film was stalled for the next 2 years.
Okay.
I had no money. And actually, a mainstream producer had said, I'll give you some money. And just 1 day before I was to leave for the shoot, he pulled out and said, I can't. So all the tickets were cancelled, train tickets, bus tickets, flight tickets. I had to tell my actress, Lap Diang CM, that I'm sorry, but the schedule is cancelled. And this was the first schedule she was going to be coming on. And I hadn't even met her in person, right? Yeah, I'd only cast her by looking at her resume and the work profile she had. She's from NSD 2012 batch. So I had to tell her, I'm so sorry, I'm cancelling your ticket. We are not shooting now. Something's happened and the schedule is postponed. And she asked me till when, and I said, I don't know. But she stuck it through, right? There was a whole reset that took place then. And that's when I found my DOP who finally shot the film, Omar Adam Khan, because he was actually somebody who didn't know Money Call at all.
Okay.
He hadn't heard of him.
Okay.
He hadn't seen his cinema. So if I told him, I want you to shoot this entire 10-minute sequence just with feet, of the dancers. Yeah, okay. Fine. And then he was like, so we need this little trolley because we're going to have this smaller camera that can just travel, at that level, which is like just 6 inches off the ground. So he was there, and he was also somebody who painted, and he shot documentaries for National Geographic. So he would go to the jungles for like days on end all by himself and just shoot, wait for a lion or a tiger or whatever to appear, whatever he was tracking, and then just shoot them right there and then. And that's the kind of commando thing I needed.
Because our sensibility of Manikal without ever seeing Manikal.
Well, in a sense, sensibility meaning he was open to the idea of taking a risk. Shooting something that he doesn't know anything about. Relying on the framing I'm going to give him, but also his own inputs. Once we've taken a couple of shots, he would suddenly say, can I take a shot like that from here and there and there and there? And I'd say, oh, go ahead. And that was the real great collaboration, because apart from what I have structured completely, that it has to be like this, the ability for the DOP to just do that beautifully, and then to say, okay, I can see a possibility of maybe doing one single shot like this, or 2, 3, 4. And that's what started happening. And so then finally the film got shot. The script got written in 2013. Now, mind you, the gaps in between were not sitting idle. It was constantly thinking who, what, how, meeting people, getting DOPs to tell you, the ones from FTI, that, oh, I don't have time for the next 2 years. You can use my chief assistant. So I'm like, but your chief assistant needs to be with you, right? They said, yeah, he needs to be with me on the next film. So then I realized that's a way of fobbing me off. Because actually you need your chief assistant. So getting no's, and, a lot of rejections. And I also didn't blame anybody for the rejections, because I understood that Manikal is not somebody you take for granted.
Yeah.
Mostly people like, Manikal? What are you doing on Manikal? Then you're an actress. So that already qualifies you for someone who will do something that's either self-indulgent or very elementary in terms of storytelling. Elementary, I mean, Mani and Kumar and all are known for creating a whole different image, So the idea being that, what will you do? So if you've acted in this film, you want to make a film deconstructing the process, the actor's craft, vis-a-vis the film you acted for him. So I can see, because I'm an actress, I read the mind. So I can see the thought process that's going on. Okay, कुछ बनाएगी, उसमें अपने आप को डाल देगी, है ना? थोड़ा अपना फंडा डालेगी, थोड़ा interviews हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा. So even after I would read the script out, it was like, yeah. That's what. So Omar Adam Khan was perfect, because he'd never heard of Manikal. He hadn't seen his movies. He was a young guy. He was only in his late 20s or mid 20s. And he had spent most of the 10 years of his life shooting National Geographic animals in jungles without any major support system. And that's the person I needed for the film. I didn't need a paraphernalia. I didn't have, and also so that we could shoot in Banaras when we shot in 2018, it was winter morning, and we set up a doorway on the ghat. There's a sequence in the film, you will see it. I needed an actual doorway there. So I'm telling you all these production things because the film I can't explain to you.
Yeah.
If I could, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So the script is there, the film is there.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you what
went behind.
What fights you do to get to the creative results that you want. And those fights are not just about what's going to come on screen. It's how it will lead to the screen. So every time I would sit in Bombay with a team, it was like, I need a door on the ghat, on the top of the steps. हाँ मैम, 4 लाख तो लग जाएगा. Because यहाँ से team जाएगी, carpenter जाएगा. ये वैसे can't you just take carpenters locally there? I mean, small towns have good carpenters. नहीं उनको film का क्या समझ है उनको? So there was all this, My whole doorway thing got done because I hired a door post from where they sell door posts. And I told them I don't need it for a house, I just need it for a shoot. So, अच्छा ले जाइए.
Oh.
अच्छा थोड़ा कुछ rent दूँ क्या? अच्छा 700 रुपए दे दीजिए. And then it was like, how are we going to transport it from here?
Yeah.
So the boatman, who my local person knew, local guy, said, boatman है एक. So I told the boatman वो दरवाजा उधर डालना है और फिर इधर लाना है राजा घाट पे और फिर इधर लगाना है. हाँ हो जाएगा सुबह 4 बजे winter morning. I said by 5:30 before daylight I need it there. Okay. So they were there at the ghat sitting at 4:30 in the morning with the thing on the boat. So my entire then for production like vehicles going from one place to another. The idea is people carry people from Bombay. I was like, no. They asked one rickshaw puller who had a, motorized rickshaw. I said, कितना बनाते हो दिन में? जाता है इतना. So I said, हम तुमको दुगना देंगे, तुम्हारा दिन शाम तक काम करोगे हमारे लिए? क्या करना है? मैंने कहा, जहाँ जहाँ ले जाना. लोग ले जाना, सामान ले जाना, ये वो. And that's how it happened. So the entire thing, the film started in 2013, one schedule in Rajasthan for 2.5 days, another couple of days twice in Banaras over different periods of time, and then Delhi, similarly. With a unit of 3 people, myself, the DOP, a sound person, and sometimes one assistant. That was it. And then the actress, and whoever else was going to be in the frame. And then we finally finished shooting the film in 2000. And the beauty of was that I got every single location I had written in the film. Okay. Every single, including my PG place in Bombay in Vakola.
Ah, acha. Okay.
So everything, I got it just like that. So it took that many years for a green lighting to happen to say, okay, now start, you've got the right team. You've got everything in place. Now you're ready to shoot. And that's how this film got shot over 6 or 5 schedules over a period of 15, 16, 17, 18, over 4 years. And then the editing went on for a while. And I have to mention Prakash Jha in that context because now I'm shooting for a schedule. I don't know when the next schedule will be. And thank God for OTT. Because when that happened, I started getting the money to be able to make my schedules. And to be able to pay people, because I made sure everybody gets paid. It's not like, please do my film, I have no money. It's like, if you don't have money, don't do the film, I mean, that's what I would tell somebody. So I made sure everybody gets paid respectably on it. So their money was important. You can't shoot without that. And I remember a filmmaker friend of mine advising me, why don't you go to Satara and just set up everything? Do your Banaras, Delhi, Bombay there. I said, no. Either I make the film the way it's meant to be made or I'll not make it. And, there was also pressure from FD to deliver at a certain time. Finally, of course, I bought the film of FD because it was anyway going to shut down and get merged with NFDC. By which time I did take permission from them that I know you don't have the money, but is it okay if I put in my own money? And the film is going to go way beyond your 12 lakhs. Is there some way you will be able to refund it? And they were like, no. So they were very sweet. They said, ma'am, abhi hame mat do film. Kyunki hamara kya hone wala humko nahi pata. Your film, once we take it, after you have done the rough cut, it'll lie somewhere. We won't know where it is because we won't know as and when. So you keep the film with you. If you can buy it off, just buy it off. So finally, with 3-4 years of OTT by that time, I could buy off the film. And I could also do all the post and everything. So after some point of time, it was just my baby. So when we started editing, I needed a place where I could put my hard drives where I didn't have to take them off. Here it's eating up space. So then I went to Prakash Jha. I don't know him very well in that sense. He's not like a buddy or anybody. But I know that he's a person with his own studio setup. People with their own studio setups are very very kind that way. If they feel that you're genuine, they say, okay, use it. Like Vidhu Vinod Chopra did when I was making the film on Lal Ded, the documentary I made. He gave me his editing suite, gratis. So likewise, I went to Prakash Jha and he said, you can pay something. I said, I'll try. He says, thoda to dena chahiye, it's good policy too. So I said, okay. He said, pay my technicians.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And it was wonderful because I had the bandwidth and the space to just leave my film in a safe place for those long periods of sometimes 9 months or 10 months to come back to the studio and to find it all still there. And at the drop of one click, ki ye chahiye, ye chahiye, ye chahiye. And the great thing about his studio is that he has the editing on the 4th floor, the sound recording on the 3rd floor. So I would tell the editor, एक मिनट मुझे ना ये VO record करना है, तो I'll record it and come. You know?
Yeah.
And that's how the film got made. And then he kept my, and that's how I also found my editor for the film finally, because I said, just put the film in a sequence as I shoot. I mean, I'll sit with you. So I started sitting with him and putting it in sequence. And then he was like, ऐसे थोड़ा होता है documentary. So I said, documentary नहीं है, film है. So he's saying, हाँ, but मैंने इतने सारे edit किए, ऐसे नहीं होता है. मैंने कहा, आप ऐसे करो, आप कर लो. He got it after some time. After 2 weeks, he was editing sequences on his own. And they were done so well, because we'd start on a sequence, we would tire out, and I never worked more than 4 hours a day. I just think it's unproductive.
Oh, nice.
After that.
Yeah. And to make a film like that is to also go back to an older version of yourself, because you started with Siddheshwari, one of your earliest films.
Yes, my first major film, in cinema. Like,
How was that experience?
Actually, where the film came from is very important to know. When I was shooting Siddheshwari, I was just fresh out of drama school.
Yeah.
I had just done Bar Bar Wari for Kumar Shani, and Mani had seen that short film. And Kumar had directed this for Nandini Bedi, who's an editing
Student director.
Yeah, and that was her graduation project. So I was just fresh out of NSD. She'd in fact taken a picture of me washing my face at the outside basin, which was in our hostel. So I was washing my face, wiping it, and I look up and she's standing there with a camera saying, do you mind if I click a picture of yours? I said, like this? Like one Khadi ashram ka dressing gown and my hair open. And she said, yes, like this. I said, okay. And she went and gave that picture to Kumar, and then I was in his film, Var Var Wari. That was Nandini herself. This was in Delhi, National School of Drama. And then I'm in Pune shooting as soon as I graduate. And then Mani sees Var Var Wari, and I get this news feedback that he said, oh, she has a presence of a Nargis. This actress, young actress, has a presence of a Nargis on screen. And then I get the next thing is that he's casting you in his film Siddheshwari. Then I get the script of Siddheshwari, and it's like nothing I've read, which was also Kumar's script was also like that. The one before. So there's no place where you can put in a Stanislavski or a Brecht or anything there. It's like something else. It's like if a Manickal sequence in a film is 6 minutes or 10 minutes, the script on paper is 4 lines. This comes, that happens, so and so, tuck, finished. Okay. So I remember, and the first meeting he had with me in Delhi, when he wanted to meet me in person after sending a message that I'm casting you in my film, the first meeting he had was, he said, casting you in my film is the worst thing I can do to my film, because you're a trained actress, and trained actors are terrible for cinema. So like, I'm sitting there like, is he trying to get me there? I said, no, he's telling me he's casting me. And he's telling me I'm the worst thing he can do to his film. So why is he casting me? But then I was feeling, Mani was a very powerful presence and a persona. And then he talked a lot about cinema. And I was just, just out of drama school. I was just about 24 or something, 1 film old, short film old, which was already an experience in itself, Var Var Wari for Kumar. I'm saying this guy I think he's provoking me, I think he's pushing my boundaries and my buttons, and he can say what he likes about trained actors. I'll show him what a trained actress can do. So this is like touche. The minute Mani and I meet, it's like 2 fencing swords are in line. Like, okay, we see who wins this game,
Yeah.
But it was the most exciting process. The pre-production, the preparation, I would say. Production again is a bad word. Because I had to come down to Bombay, listen to hours and hours of Siddheshwari recordings at NCPA, where the whole team would go together. So it's Mani, Kaul, his wife Lalita Krishnan, that time, his wife, who's also the editor. Yes. Then Anup Singh, who was the assistant, Piyush Shah, who was a DOP, the costume girl, Anuradha Chaubal, the costume designer, who's now Piyush's wife. A whole lot of youngsters, all of us have to go to
NCPA.
I mean, they were all part of it. They were doing it. For me, actors to trudge all the way from my PG digs to there by train. So by the time I would reach NCPA, I was exhausted because I couldn't take this city. I just thought it was too ugly for words, the architecture. After a meeting like that with Mani, this is before I came to Bombay also. When he had met me, I came to Bombay a couple of months later. he was shooting a film on Kashmir before my eyes. So things, he would write me a letter once in a while saying, you know, now it's going to be Siddheshwari. In the meantime, because he had said what he had said, that you're the worst thing I can do to my film, and then he had said in passing, as he left, that maybe it'll help if you can learn a bit of Kathak because the film is on Thumri, on a Thumri singer. So I had my Gitanjali Lal, Guru Gitanjali Lal. So she was at the Kathak Kendra. And we are kind of related to each other on two other sides of the family. So that's how I'd been introduced to her. Since NSD and Kathak Kendra campus were the same. So she said, you come, her sessions at the Kathak Kendra from 3 in the afternoon till 7 in the evening. 4 hours, different classes. The first class was for seniors, the second class was for small kids and like that. So I would land up at 2:45 and leave at 7:30. And for those 4 hours, I would be in the class. Every class standing in the back and doing my Kathak. Whichever way. And I remember it was really funny because when the smaller kids came who were all at the age of 6 and up to the age of 6 to 9 or 10, they would kind of be doing ta, thai, thai. And then when it had to turn, they would actually look at me like, who's this lumpard standing at the back? So I went in to train for Kathak for 4.5 hours every day for 3 months.
And do you think that helped?
Huge. The idea of repetition. So I did that. Then Mani said, you should study miniature paintings a little. Just look at the posture of the Nayika. So what do? I go into the NSD library, pull out every single miniature painting book and sit and pore over it for hours. I make sketches, I make drawing on tracing papers. I practice those postures. So everything you said in passing, casually, like one throws a little chit your way, I kind of grabbed it, held on to it and made sure that I give it my all. So by the time I was ready for the film, I had done 3.5 months of Kathak every day for 4 hours. I had studied more than 200 miniature painting postures, sketched them, traced them, practiced them, put them into my body. So whatever he'll tell me to do in front of camera, I have something already in place. And then the Thumri thing was then I had to practice one Thumri which would be lip synced. But as I got into it, I got so caught up with Siddheshwari's singing. And while my mother is a classical singer and she's trained in classical music, and she would tell us as kids, try and get us to give an ear to it, the height of classical music for me was Jagjit Singh and Chitra Singh. And when their ghazals had first come out, I knew a lot of them by heart. They love music and singing. So I had to lip sync this one Thumri of Siddheshwari, Jao Jao Ji. And the others are going to be played around.
Yeah.
Because Mani must have thought it's too difficult for her to do. But I got so into the lip syncing of it and I so enjoyed it. And going so deep into trying to imbibe the Thumri also made me realize that as an actress, that singing the Thumri at that time wasn't a matter of here to here. It was your entire body that went into creating the phrase, to taking that kind of breath. So and then during shooting, then whatever Mani would say to his cameraman, I would note that down and see how in acting do I interpret this. Because I was like mopping him all the time, like a sponge. I would soak in everything about him. And that was what I love about being an actress, is to be the ability to enter the director's mind and to soak it all up and to see what is it that they're looking at. And this would happen a lot with the directors then, because they were people of great stature, intellectually and aesthetically in every way. Now if you enter somebody's mind, I don't know what you'll find there. What's my next project? How do I pay for my EMI? Let me cast so and so by doing this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
इसमें ये कर लेता हूँ, अगले में तो दीपिका पडुकोन उनको लूंगा ही लूंगा. So maybe that's what I'll find. But that time it was different. So I ended up imbibing and I had notes that I had made. So there were all these miniature painting practices. There were notes on everything Mani had said, and I had about a tome of them, which I have even today. And over the years, I kept them. And there were notes also that came a lot from the NSD training that I had just undergone. How I'm connecting what I learned at NSD in terms of theory and practice to how to connect it to the theory and practice of cinema. So as a young actress, I was constantly making my connections and joining the dots, So if I've learned Manipuri dance here and they want a movement like this, you think I would like, talk about the fulcrum-like movement of shoulder to pelvic to blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, when I look at those notes now that I made at the age of 25, I'm like another being. I don't even feel as intelligent today as I did when I look at that stuff. And there were things I'd written randomly, which I didn't even know what they meant. But there was a thing saying, it's a Sanskrit phrase and it's from which text it's come. Now, I don't know whether this is a text we had learned in our Natya Shastra class at NSD or it was something Mani had uttered.
Yeah.
Because Mani would come up with all sorts of things. His thing wasn't about Siddheshwari hai to ye karo ye. He gave me a lot of material. But he didn't want me to mimic Siddheshwari. He wanted me to understand from a very deep inner space the inner trajectory of what her greatness as a musician was.
Was it the same process for Kumar Sahani as well?
With Kumar Sahani also, it's not the same, but it's different, but it's again a process that's very ephemeral almost. Like Kumar, when I asked him for Valvalari, Kumar, who's my lover across the river? He says, a black swan.
And you said this somewhere about the leader and the swan, the poem that you...
You know that article?
Yeah.
There's an article that I wrote on it then, And what it does to you, how it triggers your imagination. So that you don't even need to think of a man to have that sense of your deep inner sensuousness, Which is so... It doesn't have to be related to another physical body. Because actually we are born with our own sensuousness. We have always confused sensuousness with sexual, with a sexual act which will be with somebody who's equally exciting.
Yeah.
That's not what sensuousness is. Sensuousness is the ability to feel within your entire inner cosmos. All the greatest beautiful sensations that nature has to offer to your five senses. That is sensuousness. It's not this mindless act of, copulation, which very often and not is mindless. It's passion driven. It's not aesthetically driven.
Yeah.
And to me, the play that I recently wrote some years ago, again, it's called Love, Real and Real, Prem, Abhineet Prem. It's again about the aesthetics of things. And I think this idea of the aesthetics, which was already something that had been inculcated in us by having like going to Manipur and the Natya Shastra and Geeti Sen teaching us miniature painting analysis at a young age. So do you see how it comes through? I've done miniature painting analysis at School of Drama and here this director is telling me, study miniatures if you can, look at the Naikas and the postures. And it was like, this is the world of literature, art, poetry, painting and everything. And it is so exciting, So that is how, so then I realized I have all this material here. And then there were two other things, that as an actress, as a young actress, I had to bear the brunt of, which was being ridiculed at every stage by a lot of contemporaries and peers for being an actress who was acting in Manikal films and Kumar Sahani's film. And Manikal even more so. Because the idea was that they don't know anything about acting. So I remember one actress who's my senior from NSD. She was married to a filmmaker earlier. We were at a get-together, a big gathering of 40 people by another actress. And I remember, because I was very celebrated already, Meeta Vasisht, the new wave, the next Smita Patil and all that. And I'm there and they decided to do an act on Manikal directing and Meeta Vasisht acting. So one person, this director, becomes Manikal and says, ye karo, look left, look right, look up, look down. And this actress did this caricature of...
But they wouldn't know anything about it.
They'd seen the films.
Okay.
Whatever. And the interesting thing is I hadn't seen a Manikal film either. When I acted for him, which was probably a good thing because I came with a completely fresh energy and perspective to bring what I would bring to Siddheshwari. So I remember this whole, like a ramp walk of Meeta Vasisht caricature and the caricature of Manikal And everybody was laughing and having a ball. And I remember just fighting back my tears, going into the bathroom and crying and then just touching it all up and coming out and, and it really hurts. So that's the time. And I said, these guys don't even know what Moneyball is about. They can't even take a bloody, sorry, the word. They can't even take a shot like him. The interesting is the same filmmaker who ridiculed Moneyball. Much later in a film of his, I won't even take the name, he actually copied one Moneyball shot exactly, a round trolley shot. But that's it. The point is that I felt deep inside me that there is so much about money and his relationship with acting that is just not being understood at the acting level. So nobody talks about him as a great director for great performances. They talk about him as a great director for great visuals, sound, theory, And so it wasn't to set matters right, but it was just something that came together. The actor's craft, the Natya Shastra, my own ideas about performance, and a director who actually tells you to your face that I don't like trained actors. So Mani was also a bit of I would say a rascal like that, because he would throw these things at you like a googly, right? And expect you to deal with it. And he would not praise you for your performance. He would still go up on stage 20 years later, even after saying to me that Siddheshwari is a film I've always wanted to make a film like this, and maybe it's thanks to you as an actress that I finally did it. He actually said that very much later after the film got over. That was the only closest that and that was also a private compliment, private in the sense in the midst of 10 people, but definitely something he would put on print. So it was very interesting because he would still go on stage and say, non-trained actor, best for cinema. So one day, I remember when he said that at some meeting when he'd become this director for the Cinefan Festival.
Okay.
Much later, this was 25, 30 years later when I met him, and he gave his speech on stage. He came off stage and I said, Mani, next time, then I know you're going to make a public speech. I'm going to sit with rotten tomatoes in a basket. And the minute you say non-trained actors are better for cinema, I'm going to pelt you with those. So I said, look at Satyajit Udani, you have Om Puri, you have M.K. Raina. Look, because after that I'd seen a lot of his films after many years. I said, Siddheshwari, you have me. You have so many trained actors. Gopi, the great South actor. In Satyajit Udani, and Om Puri's voice, doing the voiceover for that film. I said, every film of yours has the best, the creme de la creme of the trained or the professional actor. So why do you go on and on about... So he had a big laugh. But I think Mani's thing was to provoke.
Yeah.
And to provoke you into going deeper and deeper into being able to come up with why you defend what you defend. Or why do you say what you say? Can you actually hold it up? And I think that is a very powerful thing that any human being can do to young people.
Yeah.
Is because that's the problem these days that we face, no? People don't know why they defend what they're defending. They don't even know why they hold an opinion that they're holding. And that is what happens when you... so for me, Moneyball and that thing called The Actor is obviously tongue-in-cheek. The idea that people... And he himself would pretend the actor is just an object. But his concern with the craft of acting was of a very deep level. It wasn't superficial at all. And therefore the name Moneyball and the thing called The Actor. So the film actually looks at the 4 pillars of the Natya Shastra. The Angik, Vachik, Aharya and Satvik. Which we had studied at NSD, which indirectly Mani was always getting in his cinemas. Except that I believe towards the last few years of his life, he was also teaching exactly the Natya Shastra at the FTI. He would actually use that terminology. Earlier on he didn't. So that's where the film comes from. This whole amalgam, ideas of a 2,500-year-old treatise, the Natya Shastra, a director who pushes actors into those concepts actually without necessarily naming them. And whom I acted for. And all these notes that I had,
And I'll also talk about Kumar Shahani's process. And because we were talking about movement so much, in Kasba, your character, she has such a such an enigmatic posture and the walk
Yeah.
itself. How did that come about?
That was actually, see, again, when Kumar cast me as Tejo, the lead character, there were no discussions on who she is, why she is, what's her inner life, what is her graph, nothing. It was like, we need to find her walk. Need to find her walk? Yeah, the way she walks. Like, the way she walks is, depends on, like you're taught the conventional thing. If you're angry, you'll walk fast, or you'll freeze, or this or that. Or if you're fearful, you'll crouch around and walk. That's the kind of stuff that's taught in the name of acting. So for him, it was no. So every morning from Andheri East, I would travel to his house on Warden Road. And he would sit in his drawing room, 10 in the morning till 1 o'clock. I'm just walking up and down his drawing room. Walk. It was a nice old Warden Road house, so Shankar Mahal. So walk, and he'd sit on his sofa and watch. Then he'd say, let's try a little bit of this. Let's try a little bit of that. Let's try a little bit of the hip. More of the hip. More of this, more of that. And the nice thing was that because I was also NSD trained and we were doing all that, so I would give it my all again, So walk with your hip back, one hip forward, one this, one that, leg coming from out to in, from going from in to out. This, like making those kind of meanderings or whatever it is. And then his very precise instructions, walk like a tigress. So you think about it, like, how does a tigress walk? But you're a woman, you're a human. So what element of the tigress walk can you bring into your human walk? And that's how it happened, continuously. And then one day we got the walk.
So even he was developing the walk with you and did not have it in mind
No.
what the walk was.
We did. We didn't talk about it. We would instruct, but the first thing was to do it. So walk. So imagine walking for 15 days in his house. First thing in the morning till lunchtime, and then okay, the walk's not happened today, not the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day. So you go back. But every time you're trying something new, something is opening in your body. So something's opening in your body, and the next day you have to do it from a new space. So something remains, something adds on to it, something then gets lost, something is found. And this process went on for, I think, like 15 days, till one day when some elements came together and I walked, and he said, that's the walk. Now, when you get a walk like that, when you know how this person is going to walk, how do you pronounce your name?
Orjoma.
Orjoma. I'm going to say it in things so everybody knows Orjoma. So in Orjoma, what happens is the body, the mind, and the breath are so connected that when you change one thing, the other thing starts getting informed by that. Now, very often we try to do it the other way around. We try to get the mind first and the emotion first and say the body will follow. But the body has already become a creature of habits from the time you were 0 to 25, 6. Because it's your body. This is how I sit, how. So you recognize a person in the crowd. So as an actress or an actor, how do you get a new body for a new character? You have to work first with the body. Of course, certain inputs. So once I got the walk, there was no more discussion on the characterization. Because once you walk, your entire body is involved. Then you know how you will sit, how you will lean, how you will gaze.
Was the body equally important in Khayal Gatha also?
Of course. And that is so interesting because while people consider these directors to be intellectual and all in the air, they were actually made of earth element. They worked with the earth and molded it till it became, the idea was to work with the earth element, which is your body.
Yeah.
To start with. I'm using this word earth element, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
No?
And both these were shot by KK Mahajan.
No, KK Mahajan did not shoot. Piyush Shah shot Siddheshwar.
No, Kasba and Khayal Gatha.
Kasba and Khayal Gatha were KK Mahajan, but interestingly, Piyush was Var Var Vari.
Yeah.
And Kasba was KK Mahajan's 75th film.
Oh my God.
So to celebrate that, he cooked chicken for the entire unit on my birthday.
How lovely.
So it was my birthday during the shoot. So he decided, suddenly KK Mahajan is not there. Where is he? He was a great cook. Great cook. He's in the kitchen in the hotel kitchen since after the shoot happened. He'd already ordered all this amount of saman and everything the day before. It's Meeta's birthday tomorrow. And he had cooked this most amazing chicken for the entire unit. Those days were so different because the entire unit ate together.
Yeah.
They ate the same food.
Yeah.
So KK didn't just cook for the actors, the direction team and all of that. He cooked for everyone from the spot boy to the drivers to the lead actress to his director, Kumar Shani, to all the assistants, to the costume department. So, and everyone ate together at the same time. So it was, these were great guys, you know.
And the thing that we read so much about this avant-garde cinema and parallel cinema and how, you know, from the mainstream perspective, these are all in the same category. But
No, they're not.
But for them, it's different.
Completely.
So, did you also have this perspective? And you've also done some great, brilliant roles in what gets termed as parallel cinema.
Govin Nilani.
Yeah, Drishti and Rohta
Yeah,
and
no.
all of these. So in your head, was there a difference between
Big difference, yes.
and was this also a point of discussion in the film shoots? And did these people?
Oh my God, ask me about it. You know, see, also when you're 26,
Yeah.
you're young and you're beautiful and everything about you is something that everyone's falling all over, right? So I realized, apart from what I thought was my great talent or God-gifted talent, it was also the fact that you're young and there's a certain beauty about yourself then and your youth and everything. So you could get away with blue murder at one level. So I haven't changed much, but the thing is now I'm older. So if I say, no, I want it like this, at that time it was like, they'll be amused. Now it's like, these actors and these senior actresses are so difficult.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the thing is that Kumar and Mani in many ways were not people who were ever interested or, how should I say, stymied by whoever else you were working for. Kumar particularly I have never heard him criticize or demote any other actor, director, creative person ever. And neither have heard Mani do that. They did not criticize anybody else's cinema, ever. They never criticized anybody else's idea of cinema at nobody. Because they had a lot of their own world and that is where they focused completely on their cinema. Of course, Mani and Kumar were constantly compared. Like you said, Satyajit Ray and Ghatak. So Mani and Kumar.
Yeah.
It's like these two names come together all the time. Even though their approach to cinema was very different. But I think they had the same resources. Like they were both great students of Ghatak and they were classmates and whatever, at the same time the institute. And then I became the common actress also. They'd already done a lot of but suddenly that entire several years was just me going from a Kumar Shani film to a Mani film to a Kumar Shani film to a Mani film and Govin Nilani also, apart from all the other work. But these were the three directors that I've done continuous work with, like 4 films and a a show that never got released, for 3 films and a show for Govin, 2 films for Mani, which were mega films, 3 for Kumar Shani, things like that. And all happening at the same time. So, of course, the comparisons were there. The only person who would sometimes really jab me with some sarcasm was Govind Nilani. Because Govind is a very different director.
Yeah.
The only thing that Mani and Kumar have in common is that they don't repeat their shots.
Okay.
If they have to travel from somewhere and take a close-up, they'll do it. Or they'll take only the close-up. They know, bas itna hi chahiye. Govind is a director who has a lot of retakes. So, for a single scene, it's like, this is the scene, we rehearse it. Now he'll shoot it. Then it's your over the shoulder, my close-up, my over the shoulder, your close-up. Then it's 2 shots. So you're doing the same take sometimes. With me, he had a bit of a tussle. He learned it the hard way, not to take too many takes with me. It was like, oh yeah, And he would actually admit it. She's mad, but at the end of it, you realize that there is a method to her madness. So, and he said it in print, Govind. Govind is a dear friend. Like, I was very close to Mani and Kumar, very fond of them. With Govind, it was like, we would fight like kids sometimes. So if sometimes I would be saying, no, Govind, not like this, on set, by the way. Would you say this in a money call set? Or like, oh, no, not again, please, I was like, can we just leave money call out of this? No, would you say this on a Kumar Shani set? I'm like, can we just leave them out of this? This has nothing to do with what's going on here.
Yeah.
And with him, when I'd done Jazeera, which was our first film, then he would say sometimes, when you give interviews, your roles get talked more about than what you're doing for me. I said, yeah, because you haven't yet given me a lead role. I'm the lead actress in their film. When are you giving me a lead role? This is how we talk. And I said, by the way, I was the lead in Jazeera. How are you the lead? I said, because it's Little Eolf, no? So Little Eolf is my name as well.
Yeah.
So I'm the lead. Okay, you have a point. So this is a kind of cute little fighting that would happen, But Govind was a different director, but he was again a great director. But see, as an actress, what I love about being an actress, and which I said to Kumar once, Kumar used to tease me, he would say, oh, you actresses are also promiscuous. The idea being that actresses always falling in love with their directors, or the directors are falling in love with, that mythology that is there. So I said, no, Kumar, we're not promiscuous. We are just intellectually flexible.
Lovely. I love that.
So this intellectually flexible, and it's true. No, I didn't say intellectually. I said we are spiritually flexible.
Spiritually flexible.
I said we're not promiscuous. We are spiritually flexible. And it's a fact. I meant that we said it lightly, but I really mean that. For me particularly, it's very important to enter with all my being into the world of the director, into his aesthetics, So for me, when I'm in a Govind Nilani film, and I know Govind likes to play it with high emotions, his films, all of that. Even when I see a film like Drohkal today, I think it's beautiful what Om and I have done there.
Yes.
In that, And even in Drishti, that sequence where you're,
and
all of that, So gradually Govind, of course, realized that she's a slightly different actress and she will do it her way. But she's not going to go away from what I'm asking for. But I can't give her the instructions because she doesn't want those instructions sometimes. Like, for example, when he wanted to do the molestation scene in Drohkal. Why I'm saying spiritually is because really it is of the spirit. I believe acting eventually is from the deep inner spirit. It's not about all the accoutrements that are outside. It is a soul thing. It's a huge journey inward. So in that, I remember him instructing me that she feels like this, she feels that. Now the woman in me, the young woman in me, who's got pinched and poked and brushed against and, elbowed in your, delicate parts when you're traveling publicly, which is what happens a lot with us when we're growing up. That woman, that young girl got very angry that you are a man, what do you know about all this? So I remember getting very irritated with this. And thinking, can you just tell me, Govind, what you want? Don't try and explain to me how I'm supposed to feel. Because you're a man. You don't know what it means like when someone goes and puts pinches your bosom when you're just 17, 18 years old while they're passing by and you can't do anything about it and they've just already gone. And then I realized, very interestingly, this is a part of me which is not Sumitra, the character. So the instructions he's giving me are triggering in me a kind of a primal response as a young female species who has had to deal with ugly male attention in public spaces. So, of course, that comes up. And then that makes you really irritated with the director for trying to tell you how you should feel. But then also the other thing comes up is that how do you get past that and just do what the character is required, So, there's a very interesting story which I won't go into here as to how we got that scene. The Anu Kapoor and that scene in the film, which is an amazing scene. And how it was eventually just done in a one take thing. That's a big story. It's a great, lovely, fabulous face off between Govind and me.
Please tell me about it. I know.
It's going to take a lot of screen time.
You can.
In another one, maybe you should do another one because here it will go into too many directions then. So it's a fact that each director is very different, but spiritually, you actually give you try and give a complete self to each director's film and to the role that they want. So my way of working with Money Call was very different. It was very different with Kumar Shani. Like my whole inner being would want to, focus on what is it that they think, what is this, what are they thinking, how are they taking this shot, why? Not why in terms of technicalities, but the why comes in. And for Govind, it was different. So you cannot slot these directors together, even if you're the same actress. Now, sometimes non-actresses have it lucky because then the director adjusts according to you all the time.
Yeah.
And that happens also. But in this case, yes, each director. So you cannot put parallel cinema. And I also feel parallel cinema when you say a Govind Nilani is so different from a Mrinal Sai. So different from a Shyam Benegal.
Yeah.
So different from some of the other great makers of the South like Shaji Karun and all.
Yeah.
I think all the cinema that's not commercial should never be slotted.
That's a good way of.
It cannot be slotted and it should not be slotted. And anything can get slotted with each other is basically either just mediocre stuff or imitations of what once was the original.
Let's talk about theatre.
Yes.
And how has your relationship with the medium evolved over the years from your NST days to now?
I'm in my 21st year of performing London. The solo play.
Yeah.
21st year. It's a solo, it's a theatre solo that took 3 years in the making from the year 2000 to 2000 and actually 4 years to 4 when the first performance happened in December. So that will tell you something about my relationship with the theatre. I've also been directing at the School of Drama. I did last year Three Sisters with the third year students, Chekhov's play, which was a 3.5-hour performance with just one interval. It was really beautifully received. And to my mind, it's still one of the most beautiful things I have done. And it's a beautiful play and it worked out very well with this very talented bunch that has just graduated of NSD actors. I think the power of theatre to keep you alive creatively, to keep you sane creatively, and even as a human being, for both audiences and actors, is unmatched. Only very great cinema can somehow help in that direction. But certainly, I think theatre is not something that can ever be dismissed, no matter what the medium evolution is. And remember, when I graduated from NSD, it was in 1987. 86 was the first time television serials had come in with Bunyad and Hum Log. For a while, theatre seemed like it went underwater almost. The repertories all packed up and our desire to just be theatre actors was over because there was nothing to do. Television had just grabbed all the best of talent. But from videos, 35mm films, to digital technology, now you'll never find a video. You won't find those pneumatic tapes. You don't find the machinery for it. You don't find cassette players, although I believe it's all coming back now. So the medium technology keeps advancing. I don't know if it's for the better, I don't think. But the theatre basics, which is a shared space, audience, actor, that still ends up being the most visceral space you can be in. So for me, it's a space of great affirmations, And I hold my years at the NSD as one of the best foundations, something like a foundation that doesn't need to be relaid. Like when you make a house, the foundation is strong. So you only change the upar ka thil. You change maybe the walls and reinforce them. We don't do anything to the foundation. It doesn't need it. And I feel training in the theatre in a place like NSD then, not now, I'm not sure about how institutes are today, because those great teachers are also not there. The problem with this country is that we have not, as a nation, nurtured our great teachers. We don't believe that they deserve to be well paid. That when they retire, they deserve to be constantly acknowledged, brought back as, wise people to just be around. Especially when, like, NSD has the greatest of teachers. Artists mature with age. And that's the time you let them go. Teachers become greater with age. And that's the time you let them, okay, now retire, go home. Here's your pension, your pay packet. You don't. That's the time you should be giving them those little gurukuls where,
So true.
where students can keep coming to them for references and for those nuggets of learning, because one nugget contains a whole Veda in it sometimes, So what theatre has taught me it's a continuum. It has never, even though for a while I was seen only as a film actress or this or that or OTT. But people are very surprised when they see Lal there today. Those who have not seen me in the theatre. It's like, we didn't know this, and this power. So for me, theatre is very, very, very vital. And I actually want to do a lot more theatre. I'll want to direct a lot more theatre. And always the whole issue comes down to, there's no money. How do you pay? How do you pay people, yourself, for shows? And frankly speaking, there's no really theatre-friendly venues anymore in this country. I recently did Laldet for a recently opened auditorium here. I won't take the name.
I know the name.
They charge 15,000 a show. They only have an 80-seater capacity. And so, on a Sunday, I booked, because I had the slot anyway from 2 to 9 o'clock. And mine is a 1-hour solo with interaction with the audience, taking it to about 2 hours. So, if I have a 6-hour slot and I want to, now I understand you book per show, but you don't then, you charge per show, but then your charges should be something like $6,000. Because even if I have a full house, which is usually on something like a 500 rupee ticket, I still don't manage to break even. Forget about paying.
Yeah.
So I ended up paying about 1,35,000 or 40 more. 1,50,000 from my own pocket, Now, because I love Lalit and I believe in that energy and everything, I will keep doing it. But you're not helping. And if you're saying your theatre... So in this country, we need to promote teachers, gurus, not just in the classical arts, which they anyway do, but definitely in the other allied arts like the theatre, the performance arts, which take from every other art and put it together in a way which keeps all the other arts as well alive in many ways. So the relationship with theatre is unbreakable, but the economics and it does test, it puts everything to the test. And usually I don't fail.
Yeah. And your theatre would lead you to read a lot over the years. Not just your theatre, also the kind of work that you did in films. A lot of...
My reading is something I'm really wanting to get back to. But yes, when I read a book, it stays with me very, very, very long. I recently read a Japanese writer. Now I'm forgetting the name. It's a beautiful... I couldn't get over it. I actually got envious of the heroine because she's 60 years old. And I'm like, I want to be her.
Do you remember the name?
I'll just give it to you. It's what? It's the Garden of... Yeah. It's the Garden of Evening Mists.
Okay.
What a book. And I found this in the library in the Rajiv Gandhi's, in the Nehru Center where I was performing Laldet a couple of months ago. So they gave me the director's room to hang out in the whole day. And he had the most amazing books there. So while I was focusing on rehearsing for the play, I couldn't help browsing through some of the books. And then I found this book. I read a few pages and I said, I have to read this book. So then I ordered it online and then I read it. And for days I want to be in Malaysia. I want to be in World War II.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to meet this Japanese gardener. I want to have that love affair she had.
Okay. And what about all the Chekhov and the Camus?
Oh my God. Yeah, after I did Three Sisters, you won't believe. I read everything else on Chekhov. I had books on Chekhov. I mean, I had the plays, which I had bought in first year NSD. So they were dated Pragati Maidan, 1984. I read everything of Chekhov. So I think reading is the greatest thing. And you know, when people come to my flat sometimes, there's so many books and they say, you know, Meeta, this is all sitting on real estate, you know, all this space that your books have taken up. And I'm thinking, but my God, what a book can give you is something else. So yes, I ended up reading all of Chekhov. I really want to do Chekhov more and more. I want to act in some of the Chekhov plays. I want to do Cherry Orchard. I want to do The Seagull. I want to play that, you know, jealous aging actress. All of that.
But how important is it for an actor to, you know, have a bit of existentialism in their system?
You know, the greatest artists, when they talk about existentialism, either in their painting or in literature or even someone like Chekhov, they actually reaffirm life. They reaffirm human dignity. They reaffirm the human being, the raison d'etre for the human being. That's the beauty of great artists when they go into existentialism, if you can call it that. For example, Chekhov writes about 125 years ago about people feeling completely mismatched in their environment because they feel that the values that they've been given, the education that they've had, is of no use to the world that is coming into place.
Yeah.
And it is our question today, after 125 years. So when I read Chekhov or engage with anything of Chekhov, I actually reaffirm everything of the beauty of being a human being, despite the angst. And it's because I desire beauty, that I desire affirmation, that I desire, an elevated consciousness, that maybe I'm in angst. But there's no need to be in angst because this is how human beings are. So all the great writers, poets, playwrights, painters, when they talk existentialism, they are always affirming life.
I think that's a good note to end this on.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.